All right, time for another Nerdy Virgin podcast that I'm probably going to record bits and pieces and kind of paste it all together. I don't know why I'm letting you into my process. I guess I'm afraid somebody's going to go, he didn't record it all in one sitting. He pieced it together. Well, that doesn't count as a podcast. He's never going to win the new podcast award now. It has to be recorded without any... It has to be perfect. If it's not perfect, don't bother. I am currently going through a major depression right now. And there are things about it that I feel okay talking about and things about it that I don't feel okay talking about. But I want to start by saying that I'm doing this podcast because the only thing I love doing in life right now is stand-up. And my biggest fear is that I won't be able to do it. No one will let me do it. And my biggest fear is that I'll be, 50, 60 years old, still doing local LA mics, and that I won't have the kind of career that I want to have. And the struggle, the difficult thing about stand-up is that, it doesn't matter how well I prepare. There still will be nights where I don't connect with the audience. It doesn't work. And so I guess I want to do this podcast because I it's where I do stand-up for myself. Unfortunately, I've found that even when I do stand-up for myself in this podcast, sometimes it doesn't work. And I'm not laughing. And I bomb for myself. That has happened on multiple podcasts, the ones that I deleted. I bombed in front of myself. That's how my mental health is right now. But I find that when I don't feel ready yet to really talk about the details of this, but I get depressed and I get and it gets worse and it gets better. And I'm finally beginning to understand. Well, like the joke I've been working on is, my mom's an alcoholic. My dad is the son of an alcoholic. My aunt is bipolar. My grandmother was bipolar. My great-great-grandmother was locked up in a mental institution. And 2 years ago, my cousin killed himself. And I'm out here thinking, I can manage all this alone. I don't need help. I can figure this out. And I'm beginning to see that I can't manage it myself. And I think enough stressors in my life have just added up to where I am going to go try to get a therapist and also start going to the Al-Anon meetings. And I'm realizing I can't, I need to create a support system, which even saying that out loud, I even hate the sound of that. Like supports, I hate, like I'm a building, but support system. I need struts, triangles. Got to remember triangles. I need emotional triangles. Triangles are way more weight bearing. I don't have enough emotional triangles. So I'm, I was about to say I'm on the hunt for a therapist, which doesn't sound like the right phrasing for it. And then when I was describing it at an open mic yesterday, I said I need to get back out there and find a therapist, as if we're talking about dating. I have an HMO, and so I'm afraid to call because the way the HMO works, I can't, they're going to just assign me somebody. And I guess I have to trust in the HMO that they will, based on when my one phone call, go, I think you should go with this person. I don't know. On the other hand, maybe the randomness of it is good. Maybe the HMO is to 2021 what the that medieval, not the game show, but the medieval Wheel of Fortune was in the Middle Ages. The image of the woman spinning this wheel of fortune that would determine people's fate. That is the HMO now, I guess. That is what that is. And I have weird hang-ups about going through the insurance because I'd like to think on a rational level I understand how insurance works, but there's a part of me that's like, don't dip into it now. Don't dip into it now. What if you really need it later? And I don't think that's quite how it works. I'm not sure. Maybe no one is sure how it works. But I am doing that. But the whole point of what this podcast, though, like I said, is that this is me doing stand-up for myself. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. And you if you want to listen in, you can. And if you don't want to listen in, I understand as well. I don't suppose it even is technically stand-up because there should be an audience, but what if I say that the audience is God, but maybe there is no God? Or, more realistically, I offered God a complimentary ticket, and there's a 50% show rate on complimentary tickets for shows in LA, and I can't tell whether or not God showed up. I would have felt better if God pre-purchased a ticket. So I'm in this severe depression. I don't want to spend the whole hour talking about it. I want to... And nevertheless, that seems to be all I'm talking about. I think that no matter what the external stimulus is, I always end up back in this place. And I think I would describe it as hopelessness and feeling trapped. And that no matter what I do, I don't feel like I'm in control of my life. That's where I get really stressed out. No matter how hard I try, no matter how cautious I am, bad things still happen. And when I feel out of control that I get very low. And the hilarious thing about this is that I guess it means when I'm not depressed, the reason why I'm not depressed is because I have the illusion that I'm in control. So I guess I'm either depressed or in a fantasy land. Sometimes I resent when people try to help. And this is, this even as it relates to my mom who has alcoholism. And I understand that on a level, on many levels, maybe on all levels, it's a disease. Can't help it. It's a disease. It's, and maybe that's how I have to start looking at myself and what I'm going through. This is a disease. It's a chronic illness that I have to manage. Somebody breaks their leg, nobody's walking up to them going, literally, walk it off. There are things that you have to do to manage the broken leg, or the leg will not heal properly. And sometimes when an injury is severe enough, it never heals properly, and you have to learn to live with the injury. And manage it a certain way. And if there's chronic pain, you got to do things for the chronic pain. You've got to stretch. You got to, if necessary, medicate. But it's a chronic condition. So that is what I have. I have a chronic condition. And there are things that I know help the chronic condition. I should be meditating every day. I should be going to meetings, and I need to talk to a professional. And I've known this for a while, and I've been avoiding it, thinking I can handle it on my own. But the answer is I cannot handle it on my own. I have to manage it. Chronic disease. Disease of the mind. Dis-ease. My mom always liked it when she was talking about someone with a disease. Dis-ease, not at ease, not at ease. She would say, which could be the theme of our family, not at ease. I remember my cousin gave me this car. I think it was a car that, I don't know if he made it or we went to I think it was a Boy Scouts thing or something where they all had to make these wooden cars, carve them, and then they raced them. And I ended up, either I bought one or I was given one. And I really cherished it, but I suddenly got obsessed with, what if it breaks? Like, I couldn't get it out of my head. I was just obsessed. What if it breaks? What if it breaks? What if it breaks? And I was getting very upset. And my mom was trying to comfort me. She said, it's not going to break. Don't worry, it's not going to break. So she took it and she dropped it on the floor once. It didn't break. She said, see, it's not going to break. She took it, she dropped it on the floor again, and it broke. And can I just say, as cliche as this is, that is the perfect metaphor for our entire family. And maybe for the, I think that's a perfect metaphor for Judaism. It just is. I feel like that's the secret of the universe. I just gave that to you. I just gave you the secret to life right there. You don't need to go to the top of a mountain in Tibet and meditate with the gurus. You don't need to go to Italy and eat, pray, love. You don't need to do any of that. I just gave you the secret to life. Someone tells you it's not going to break, and then it breaks. The secret to life is it is going to break. And there are people who are going to say it is not going to break. They are also going to break. Everything is going to break. That's all there is to it. God says, Moses, I want you to deliver your people to the promised land. And then God said, after they go to the promised land, you do realize it's going to be a long slog, right? Like I said, the land is promised. I didn't say it was happy. It's not the happy land. It's the promised land. I promised you some land. It will be contested. I want you to take your people who are suffering over here and bring them over there where they will suffer under different circumstances. I don't want our people to suffer under the hands of Pharaoh. I want our people to really cause our own suffering. That's the way it should be. That's what I'm looking for. I had an acting teacher. I was trying to work out a funny moment in a play, and I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out how to make it funny. And the teacher said, then don't make it funny in that moment. Don't try to be funny. Just be honest. And so that's what I'm working on doing, even in the stand-up, is just take that pressure of trying to be funny off and just be honest and see where the honesty takes me. I know where it'll take the audience back up to the front desk for a refund. He just was honest for an hour. He wasn't funny. We don't care about it. We're not here for honesty. If we wanted honesty, we'd ask a scientist, and we all know no one wants to do that right now. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's why there's a refusal or a denial to listen to science, because all science really is the affirmation that, yes, everything breaks. I think there's all... I don't know if there's been, what science do we value the most? The medical science that keeps us from breaking a little bit longer. Science that slows the breakage. That's the science that's valued. But the part of science that says, yeah, it's going to break, that's not valued. But what is breaking if not change? And we merely just change from one form to another. And it's not until we're on the other side of it, probably, that, assuming we're still conscious, we see that it was really not that big of a deal. The car is now in two pieces. Chances are I would have stopped playing with it in a few months anyway. Now, who knows what the car is? Maybe it was repurposed to something else. Maybe it's the wood parts of it is back into the soil, and now it's a tree, and that was chopped down to make another car, hopefully that was sturdier. And does the car still exist because it's in my memory? Is that something that I was just watching a friend of mine do his master's thesis play, great play, and that was one thing that he was talking about in the play. As long as I am remembered, do I still exist even after I'm gone? And if everyone is gone who remembers, and no one, I'm not even remembered, am I truly gone? And maybe the answer to that is yes. Everything breaks. That's the answer to that. Rather, perhaps what we're hanging on to right now too much is our own consciousness, and that we value it too much. We value our own awareness. Our self-awareness is overvalued. We think our self-awareness is worth a lot. It's actually not worth much. You take away the self-awareness, and what is left, aka enlightenment, is really just everything and more of the same. 1,000 years into the future, will my existence mean anything the same or different as the existence of this lamp next to me? Or will it be kind of on an even, all even? I mean, in terms of value, and I don't even know what you mean by value, but there's a point at which, when we break everything down, we're all made of the same molecules. It's all equal. Sooner or later, when enough people die and enough people forget, the Mona Lisa is going to drop in value. And it will become just like everything else in terms of an equal value, just another collection of molecules existing or not existing in one form or another. And then maybe even all of that may disappear, and the entire universe may go back to nothingness. And all of this will have been for naught. But maybe that's fine. Maybe there doesn't need to be a reason. Why did I draw that picture in class? Because I was bored. Perhaps that's why we're here. Maybe God was bored. Maybe God was in the middle of biology class and he's like, I could do better than this. I'm going to create a whole universe and then a world in it. And I'm going to put that world not in the middle of the universe, but I'm going to have everybody on that world think they're the center of the universe. And it's going to be fun to watch that. Let's see that happen. Let's see that go. Now, this has gotten very metaphysical, hasn't it? Which usually means I'm running away from my emotions when I'm being metaphysical. I'm not feeling very. I'm feeling very afraid. I'm afraid I'm going to die. And I'm afraid that just something's going to happen, and I'm either going to die or my life is going to fall apart. And this sounds, the club's reopening in June. And then there's this weird part of me that's saying, you're not going to live to see it. I want the club to reopen. I will be happy when the club reopens. Maybe I won't. What am I saying? Maybe for me, the club is reopening in June is the promised land, and it's not going to be happy. It's just going to be, I'm going to be stressed, but for different reasons. That's what keeps me going. Now that makes sense. Now I could see a path for why maybe I will survive. Because sometimes I feel like, happiness, that doesn't seem to be in the cards. Or is that something I'm putting on myself? It actually is, because whenever I start to feel better, I feel like something comes along that makes me feel worse again. Or perhaps I react to it in a way that makes me feel worse again. And I can't let things go. Whether I make a mistake or whether I don't make a mistake, but something bad happens that's out of my control and I feel helpless, I can't let it go. Just let it roll off your shoulder. That's what people... Why can't you just let it roll off your shoulder? Why can't you just let it roll off your shoulder? I don't know about you, but if it's heavy enough, does it roll off the shoulder or does it crush your spine? Nothing rolls off my shoulder. Usually, there will be an impact of some kind, and maybe it bounces. But I think the only way for something to roll off my shoulder is I would have to gently place it on my shoulder and let it go and make sure it rolls in the proper direction. Otherwise, it'll just really fall off my shoulder. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that phrase. I ate an entire bag of biscottis. Before I get to that, though, I stopped the recording, and now I'm starting up the recording again. I just want to be transparent with you. This did not all happen in one. This did not all happen in one sitting. I want to be transparent. Oh, and then for some reason it stopped recording, so there might be an interruption there that I should go back and fix, but don't want to. I was trying to put my AirPods back in. Where was I? Biscotti. Right, biscotti. I ate an entire bag of biscotti. I'm assuming that the plural of biscotti is biscotti. I don't think you can say biscottis. Well, there's a ton of biscottis over here. I think the plural of biscotti has to be biscotti, unless it's biscotti. What's the term for that? Like a murder of crows? What do you call a bunch of biscotti? Assault and battery of biscotti. I don't know. That's all right. Low-hanging fruit. Low-hanging biscotti. And I don't know where biscotti came from. I suppose I should look that up. But I love biscotti. Biscotti. I don't know why I love biscotti. We can parse that out. It's a very hard cookie. Harder than most cookies. I don't know. Maybe it satisfies two parts of me. The part of me that loves sugar, and the prehistoric part of me that would enjoy chewing on a bone. I'm not sure. Biscotti's a challenge. You got to have, it takes a little bit more torque to bite off a piece of biscotti. You know, it's a cookie that you might also be able to use it as a weapon in a pinch. And I ate the entire bag of biscotti, and I figured I was going to get really sick, and I somehow did not get really sick. So I don't know what happened there. I was able to sneak that past my digestive system without getting in trouble. Then again, the day is young. The day, my friends, is young. But if I don't do anything stupid today, hopefully I should be all right. My boss also brought in pound cake. Let's talk about pound cake. I have a really weird relationship with pound cake. My mom got me pound cake, I think in middle school. There was during the summer, one of the summers during middle school, I developed this obsession with pound cake. And I would eat it every day. And then one day, it suddenly just became revolting to me. It was as if my body had had enough pound cake for a lifetime and said, never again. And now the thought of pound cake, I don't like the name. It just really, pound cake. Yeah, this is, pounded into your arteries. Would you like some more unhealthy death cake? I would actually, yes, thank you. Pound cake. Not a fan of that. Maybe if it were meter cake. Okay, so that's the wrong, it should be kilogram cake. There we go. Or gram cake. I think it would be kilogram. Kilogram's closest to pound, right? I can't remember. The standard system of measurement that we are still using. When the other one is just, based on the number 10, so much easier. I think in Star Trek they used they would say kilometers. They wouldn't say miles. Kilometers sounds more, like I would want to be on a starship in the future where they're saying kilometers. It appears to be 12 kilometers away. 12.5 kilometers away, Captain. That just sounds better than, about 5 miles as the crow flies. We're in space. 5 miles as the dead crow floats through space towards the sun. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be on the ship with that guy. I'll tell you that right now. I will tell you that right now. So, I'm filling out paperwork to go see a therapist. It's time. I've been under a lot of emotional strain. And I think some things happened in my life that kind of, like the straw that broke the camel's back, basically. And I think there have been things that have been building up. My cousin killing himself, and then just the pandemic, dealing with that, and some other things. My mom getting ill, just a lot of things, and I feel like I need to talk to somebody, and so I'm having to fill out this paperwork for it, and it's asking, scale of 1 to 3. How depressed are you? Depressed? Do you have anxiety? 1 being not so much, 3 being a lot, and I was flirting with. Well, maybe I should only circle 2 because I'm not. I'm not. It's not. It's not that bad. And then I had to tell myself, I don't know who you are, but sir, I think you need to leave my brain. I think you're downplaying the, I guess that's the voice in my head. That's the, That's the mayor in Jaws. It's fine. It's fine. We're going to open the beach. There's not a shark problem. We've got it under control. It's fine. Everything's fine. So I circled 3 on the depression and the anxiety. And I have to sign these forms saying I think the doctor can talk to other doctors if the doctor feels the need to talk to other doctors, or if something happens, the doctor can, pass the information. I don't know. I didn't read it. I could read it. Maybe I should read it. No, maybe I shouldn't read it. I don't want to read it. It's too depressing to read it. So, I, therefore, I'm going to go tomorrow. I'll let you know what happened. I'll let you know what transpired. And I also want to start going to the Al-Anon meetings again. I did it for a while in college and stopped, and now I think I need to start again. And I'm realizing I need to, work on myself. And I know I talked about this at the top of the podcast, and I'm talking about this at the bottom of the podcast. Why did I stop going to these people? Why did I stop going to these people? Why did I stop doing that? Why did I stop going to meetings? Why did I stop going to therapy? In some ways I felt I was going in circles. I felt like I was just talking in circles, but nothing was really changing. And I guess I mistakenly thought that I was better. But I think it was for the similar reason why I stopped doing acting classes after a while. I thought I'm done. I don't want to be in class anymore. I want to be out on my own, and figure things out for myself. So I spent the better part of the last 15 years trying to figure things out for myself. And the conclusion that I've reached is that I'm in way over my head. There are things that cannot be figured out. And I am a person who overreacts and has a tremendous amount of anxiety and depression. And I don't think I'm going to... I don't think I'm the guy who's going to go into the woods for 7 years and come back out having achieved enlightenment. I think I'm the guy who's going to, go to meetings and therapy for the rest of my life, and it's going to be a rough road, and then it's going to stop with death, and then in whatever next incarnation I'm in, maybe better luck next time, maybe. And that's what I have to come to terms with. Basically, that is what I have to come to terms with. That I am not well, and that I am chronically not well. And it's okay to be chronically not well. Maybe no one is chronically not well. I don't believe that. I think there are people who there are people who bounce back. There are people who bounce back. Something terrible happens, and the next day they're painting. I don't know if they're literally painting, but you get the idea. I've had this dream that I want to move into a mixed-use space. It's the space that like painters live in, where it's this giant concrete, almost warehouse-looking thing with giant canvases on the wall. And I don't know. I mean, if I complete this vision, my hair would be longer, and I would be the guy that the woman would have the affair with, who's married, But in the end, she goes back to the husband and the kids. And I'm like, live with me. We'll paint each other in the nude. And she said, no, you know what? I want to live in a dwelling that doesn't feel like a place where there's a shootout in an 80s Steven Seagal movie. I'm good, thank you. But just that, I don't know, that mixed use idea, I like that idea. But I don't think I can afford to do that. I live in Southern California, which means that I really can't afford to do anything. If there's a roof over my head, I've made it. And beggars cannot be choosers. That is the simple fact of that. That is the simple fact of that. It's also getting hot again, which means fire season. There's already a fire, I think in the Topanga Canyon, which I've been. It's a beautiful place that looks like it can very easily be on fire. Everything in California, it's on fires, earthquakes, mudslides. I mean, the pandemic was a kind of a nice change of pace in terms of crisis. Hopefully, before we know it, we will be back to our, water shortage, fire, earthquake, mudslide crises. We're used to those. But this pandemic, that was a whole new crisis. Didn't know how to handle that. Still, hopefully we know how to handle it now. Hopefully we're coming to the end of this. And hopefully, I guess I was reading that they think we'll need a booster shot, but there's a possibility that they won't have to make a booster shot for the variant. Just the booster shot for the regular virus might be enough. You just have to get it once a year. The long, dark chapter in American history. This long, dark chapter in American history might soon be over. Fortunately, there are 15 more consecutive, simultaneous dark chapters in American history that have already started. When I say 15, I mean 50. When I get depressed, I tend to go to the comfort food that is Star Trek: The Next Generation and Star Trek: Deep Space Nine. I was watching a couple of episodes of Deep Space Nine. I always liked the Odo episodes. Odo episode was good. I watched the Odo episode where he lost his virginity. And because his character, he never mated with a solid until I think season 6 or season 5. So I have a kinship with Odo. We're late bloomers. And in the scene after they do it, he says, was I satisfactory? And she said, oh, yes. And I thought to myself, here's where it's fiction. I can believe an alien shapeshifter mating with another alien with cybernetic implants who can download information directly into her brain. I can believe all of that. But the fact that he was good the first time, that's, I thought this was science fiction, not science fantasy, kids. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that for a minute. I think Deep Space Nine was great. I think it took a long time for that show to, it really did get better the longer, the more that it was on. Everyone, I think a lot of the actors on that show really, once they found the characters, it really got a lot better. But in many ways it was always good. Like the pilot, I remember the pilot for Deep Space Nine, I thought was phenomenal. Almost got in a weird way, almost too good because it was such an epic pilot, and yet there are a lot of episodes, that were almost domestic, and almost kind of so much more tame by comparison. It was a good pilot. Gotta say, I've watched that pilot an inordinate number of times. And there were, the other thing I like about Deep Space Nine is that there were a lot of great character actors who populated that show, and they were always just so fun to watch, delivering Shakespearean-like performances, because they were all Shakespearean actors. So it was like watching theater. And I didn't get to see that kind of energy. That's why I never gravitated towards shows like 90210. Maybe if these actors had been in 90210 with that kind of energy and the kind of stylized dialogue, maybe that would have been better. Like if the guy who played Gul Dukat was a high school senior, but he was acting it like he was acting Gul Dukat. I see you and Brenda are going out. Fascinating. Truly fascinating, because I have it on good authority that if anything should happen to Brenda, you will face the wrath of the Cardassian Empire. I'd watch that show. I'd be there in a New York minute. In a New York minute. In a New York minuto. So, what else can we talk about? What else can we discuss? Yeah, so like I said, there's some personal things, and I usually will talk about personal things when but sometimes when it's too raw, I can't quite talk about it yet. So forgive me. There's a few doors I can't open yet. Maybe one day. But today is not one of those days. I'm honestly using this podcast to kind of get away from the feelings of depression right now. So I'm using this as an escape, which is the exact opposite of what I teach people to do, or what I tell other people to do when they're doing stand-up. I gotta go towards the pain, not away from the pain. So I'm kind of torn. Do I want to go there? Do I not want to go there? But there's some things I can't go to today. I can't talk about. It's too painful. I think what I will say, though, is that I always find myself back in depression. It feels like a cycle. I don't know that I ever totally leave depression, but I always find myself back at this bottom. And that's why I'm going to therapy and why I want to start going to meetings again, because it just feels like it scares me, because the bottom feels like the truth. It's almost like the bottom is the real world, and if I'm happy, it's a fantasy, and it's not something that's going to last. So why even bother? Like I started to feel better this week, and I stopped myself because I said, why bother? Something else is just going to come along. So why even set myself up for more depression? Or why set myself up to be knocked down again? That was the thought that I had, and that's what I'm still struggling with, to the point where I'm giving myself headaches. I gave myself a headache this week, suppressing the possibility of joy. That is how I spent my week. How did you spend your week? How was your week? Was your week any good? Was your week any better? Did you How are your neuroses? Did you find a new level to your neuroses that you didn't think was possible? Why don't you write in? But yeah, so that's that. We got 5 minutes left on this 1 hour podcast, which is always 50 minutes. How do we tie it up? How do we bring it back? Where do we go? Where do we go in the stand-up that I do for myself? That sometimes it's funny, and most of the time it's clearly a cry for help. Any other Deep Space Nine thoughts? I really do want to do an hour of stand-up on Deep Space Nine. I don't know if it's possible. I think it is possible, but I want it to be an hour of Star Trek Deep Space Nine jokes. I've had this idea for years, and maybe there's a way to do it. I think it can't really be about Deep Space Nine. It has to be about me, but I'm using Deep Space Nine as the conduit into my own life. But yeah, and I would want the show to be called 900 Jokes About Deep Space Nine. I think that would be approximately, well, it would be however many jokes it would be. Deep Space Nine has in the operations in the like the command center of Deep Space Nine. There's a light, like it's a light that runs from the ceiling to the floor. And whenever they go to red alert, there's like a red light that tracks from the ceiling to the floor along the line of this giant fixture. And it's just so it's like these. It's a series of red lights that flicker top to bottom when it's red alert, which seems a bit excessive to me. That's a big red alert light. I mean, I get that red alerts are important, but you'd think they could just take the lights they already had and just they flash red for a minute. But I mean, this fixture was built out into the space, not even just built into the wall, built out into the space, and I think that it is done to make the set look more dramatic, to increase the drama. It's that is what is going on in my brain. I feel like that's how my brain works. That when somebody else, like even with Spider-Man, his spider sense tingles. My spider sense sets me on fire, and the danger is relatively mild. And I don't know, my mom said, she said I was oversensitive. I'm oversensitive. And I'm also told I overthink things. I'm oversensitive and I overthink things. Which I guess is better than being undersensitive, because I imagine the undersensitive people are the serial killers. So I guess I should be grateful that I'm oversensitive. Here's where I want to end this podcast. Here's where I'm struggling. I don't like being told that I should feel grateful. I don't like that. And I understand where it's coming from. Well, if I practice gratitude, maybe I will feel better. Have I ever tried that? I don't know if I've ever tried that. Well, all right. I feel grateful for being oversensitive. There. I feel grateful for being oversensitive. Maybe it's given me things What is being oversensitive given me that maybe I wouldn't have if I were not oversensitive? Hopefully a sense of empathy. I can tell what other people are feeling. Although I don't even know if I can do that anymore. Maybe what else can being oversensitive? Well, I guess if it's enough of a problem, maybe I can get disability for it. So I guess I'd have to be grateful for that. What else on being oversensitive? It has probably gotten me out of doing manual labor. He cries too much. Don't ask him to move the couch. Maybe I should be grateful for that. Thanks to my oversensitivity, I'm not the first person you think of to move something. And the fact that I don't look like somebody who could move things. Look at that. 51 minutes. A bonus minute. You're welcome.